Breaking down the hate, man, we call it like we see it. Finding all the gems while the rest just sleeping. Freshmen to the league, we ahead of the curve. Picking out the next star, put them on the reserve. From the big time schools to the deep cut finds. Gotta know who's next when it's draft day time. Stock rising, playmaking, watch them ball out. Devy Degens, yeah, no doubt. Yo, it's time to talk the future Devy style. Prospects rising, diamonds shining. Only the real ones grinding. Welcome to the Devy Degens, let's go. Let's go.
Same place, but two new faces. We're filling in for SC and Tom today. It's Nino Brown and the man, the Tadpole man himself, Eric Froton, the man, the myth, the legend. How we doing on this episode of Devy Degens, my guy?
Yeah, doing great, Nino. You know, got off a 4-city tour of Tadpole Bowl live drafts. Started in Las Vegas, went over to Atlanta. We just did a two-step of Minnesota 2 weekends ago, and Austin, Texas last weekend, which is actually, you know, the other three drafts we had sort of piggybacked on the Scott Fish Bowl events, the live events, but the Austin event was just us. It was just all college football guys, so that was pretty fun too, having our own little special impromptu draft with just college guys. So it's been quite an experience. We've had, you know, right around 500 people logged up to play in over 30 leagues, and it's been, you know, quite a success in terms of at least just raising the awareness of college fantasy football and how the game is played. And, you know, being Power 4 only to the Tadpole Bowl, it does kind of keep it a little more accessible for the day-to-day fan, having to keep up with literally half the teams and not having to, you know, kind of dig into the G5. You can keep it to the power conferences and make it more accessible.
I love it. And we were talking a little bit in the green room, and you know, a lot of the big name guys people will know about because, you know, they're the big name guys and what every media platform talks about. But, you know, in fantasy, you know, it's super flex. So you always got those two quarterbacks you start. So you got to always have a third. Some guys like to stash that fourth for those, you know, those injuries or bye weeks. So there's going to be names that people might not be familiar with. So what I wanted to do on this episode, filling for the guys, is provide some names and where you have them in maybe in your rankings, you know, and where they could kind of target them, maybe late round sleepers or, you know, or some just sleepers in general that people might not know about. So obviously off the rip with the quarterback department, Froton, you know, Klubnik, Arch Manning, Lenora Sellers, Garrett Nussmeier. I mean, those are like, you know, the big names that everybody's kind of targeting off the rip. You get the Avery Johnsons out of Kansas State as well. Mm-hmm. But, you know, Carson Beck, those are like the big names that your average fan would know about. But, you know, there are some guys that we were talking about, like in the green room, that they may not be familiar with. Like, let's talk about a guy maybe out of Texas A&M and a Marcel Reed. Where do you got him ranked? And because he's a dual threat guy in fantasy, he's always kind of like a gem. What are your thoughts on Reed and where do you got him ranked?
Yeah, and like you're saying, with the dual threat, that's always something that's attractive to the fantasy members because in a lot of different standard college fantasy football leagues, you'll see them embracing the 4-point passing touchdowns, at which point it's like, all right, if you can have 4-point passing touchdowns, you literally get 33% more for each rushing touchdown. You're going to really start slanting towards dual threat QBs, which the problem is, in college, it's something that I refer to them as solo threat QBs, you know, where, all they can really do is run, and maybe they can run a very simplistic offense, but you're not asking them to make full reads or like look off safeties and throw deep balls, you know, or really run, explosive downfield concepts. So that's what I find has happened for so many years since I've been playing, 2.5 decades of college fantasy football. You'll see those running quarterbacks in 1 year be ultra effective. They'll have their breakout year, you get 20 rushing touchdowns or so, but then the year after, it's very hard to reprieve that big rushing season 2 years in a row for running quarterbacks. They either are putting themselves in harm's way a lot more, taking a lot more hits, be a lot more impactful, and then that affects their ability to throw, or they just simply don't have the overall arm talent and you feel for the pocket. They're not going to reset. As soon as they get flushed, feel anything, they're going to break. And that kind of drives coaches nuts. So there's always another, if you have a better armed quarterback, even if they're not as mobile, if they have a better pocket presence, it's not going to really matter to that coach. And you see them go with the more consistent thrower and distributor more often than not when you see the leash on the dual threat / solo threat QBs is much shorter in the college level when those guys aren't performing. You got to be able to throw the ball accurately. You got to be able to run an offense. So I am always concerned about that. But with Marcel Reed, you saw him more accurate, than you kind of expected him to be, given he didn't have a full offseason of prep. If you remember, Connor Wegman got hurt in week 3, and they just sort of said, all right, Marcel Reed, time to grow up, drink from a fire hose. And he did pretty well.
Yes.
So I have Reed at 16. You got to remember, you have arguably one of the absolute apex best offensive lines in all of college football. I think they're a legitimate Joe Moore Award contender. I would say definitely right now going in a top 5 unit for me. And given the fact that you're going to have Le'Veon Moss back, have a dual threat with Ruben Owens, and obviously another full camp under his belt and spring for Marcel Reed, you have an experienced side of the ball there offensively for Texas A&M. And when you have such a good offensive line, that's going to really help Reed in terms of his performance. I have him as the QB 16 for Tadpole Bowl purposes.
I love it. I mean, he also has Casey Concepcion over there now as a wide receiver at A&M, so that's a huge target for himself. They boasted that wide receiver room in A&M. They got like 3 or 4 guys that would be wide receiver ones pretty much in any other team. So, yeah, I think that wide receiver room, I think he's lined up in a good spot. At 16, I mean, this is a guy where if you didn't get, the top quarterback off the rip, here's a guy that you could stack with the quarterback you had. Now you have 2 guys. Or he could be your QB1 where you bolstered up, went with running back heavy or wide receiver heavy early. So this could be a guy you grab to be your QB1. But like you said, he brings upside. He brings the rushing ability. And he's back, second year into the same offense. Not really much changing going on in the Aggies, coaching staff-wise. So the scheme's the same. And he's got more weapons. So I do like Reed as long as he can take those steps in the progression. Let's stay in the lane of dual threat quarterbacks here. My guy Froton have a little technical difficulty, but I think we're going to get him back real soon. Let's talk about.
Oh, I toggled it again, didn't I? Oh,
I think you did.
There we are.
Let's talk about Giovanni Lopez. Now was in South Alabama last season. Now he's in North Carolina with Bill Belichick. What are your thoughts on Giovanni Lopez for the Tar Heels, and where do you got him ranked in Tadpole?
Yeah, well, keep in mind, obviously we have a full restructuring of the North Carolina team in the visage of the Belichick, Jordan Hudson power couple that has taken the entire college football world by storm. So, they're going to be Belichick, as we saw with New England. I mean, we know what their offense looked like for the pre-Drake May arrival. It was been pretty bad post-Tom, pre-Drake. He's
always wanted a Russian quarterback, though.
He does. I know. He'd love to have it. He had a little bit of Cam Newton for a little while, the late-stage Cam.
Right.
But with Gio Lopez, he was at University of South Alabama last year, and he, again, you want to talk about dual threat, certainly fit that profile, very, very rushing oriented. But in terms of what they put on his plate for passing, he didn't have to really do too much. He's only crossed the 230-yard threshold, I want to say twice all last season. Actually, no, I don't say once. He crossed 235, and it's because he's, you're running that system. Major Applewhite is running the show. Kind of would lock on to one receiver, but really Kentrell Bullock, Fluff Bothwell, running off of those guys who are now Bullock. He'll be a pretty attractive guy at the G5 level, but Bothwell, we know that he's over at Mississippi State now, and he's going to get a chance to at least be a number 2, 1B, I would say, to Devon Booth. We can talk about them later if you want. But that was a real run-oriented type offense. I'm curious to see how they're gonna approach and what his responsibilities will be for North Carolina. Not really a lot of buzz we're getting out of that entire team outside of Devon Goss, who is the starting running back. But wide receivers, you're not seeing Pacehour. You're not seeing even Jordan Shipp,
right,
who was their 4-star freshman last year, got on the field. There was no zero. You was certainly implementing the offense, but they had such bad QB play last year. It's hard to kind of see what that'll be. I'm just as curious as everybody else what we're going to get out of North Carolina from a tadpole / you could even look at the underdog drafts, because those are a good baseline and benchmark for kind of where the whole hobby is and what have you. He's going 169 right now. Overall going, CJ Carr, Luke Altmaier, Connor Wegman, Chandler Morris are the 2 up and 2 behind of them. So that's really the class that he's being drafted around. I don't have many shares of Lopez because of that uncertainty and because of the tendency for defensive head coaches to kind of be a little bit protective, especially in year one, not wanting to hang their defense out and put them in a bad position. So with so much uncertainty on what this whole program is going to look like in general, I've kind of been shying away from him and looking elsewhere. I'd rather have Carr. I'd even rather have Chandler Morris, definitely Wigman.
You'd rather have Chandler Morris at Virginia.
That schedule, man. They have 90th in terms of the toughest schedule in the country. That's about as good a schedule as you're going to get for any Power 5, Power 4 team. Virginia and Tony Elliott, year 4, back against the wall. They got to do something, or he's out.
Froton
out.
I have a stat that I put on CFB Nation. They haven't had a running back go for 500 yards or 1,000 since 2018. They were a one-trick pony. Chandler Morris the past 2 years has had a run game behind him. He got nothing, bro. He better be ready to step up and take that rock and be the guy. You know what I mean?
He's got nothing, and they have to. I mean, like I said, it's do or die. Tony Elliott. There's no 100%. Way. They started out 3-7, 3-9, and then 5-7 over the course of the past 3 seasons since he took over midway through, and it's not been particularly impressive. Still, the schedule's good though in terms of defenses. The best defense they play is probably at Louisville. Plenty of turnover there. Ashton Jalot off the edge going to the NFL. You probably throw in Duke, but they don't play Clemson. Yeah. They don't play Miami.
They avoid the big guys. I understand.
They don't. The teams that I'm worried about, they don't play SMU. They don't play any of them. It's almost unbelievable how easy it is. And I mean, you go from the 11th toughest schedule in the country to the 89th.
Right.
That is a recipe for success. And the fact that, just as importantly, their offensive line is going to be way better. 182 line starts coming back, and they had they had to rotate guys so much. I know they brought in, obviously transfers, and they moved guys out. They had to,
right.
So they have guys who can at least play there. I think after scoring 23 points a game last year, Morris was electric at North Texas. So good. I think with that schedule, they can be better, and they should be competent, probably even make a bowl this year, which is something that they simply haven't done in a while. I think it was 21 was the last one. That was the Fenway Bowl.
Yeah.
Fenway Bowl.
Yes, sir.
For that 2019, So we'll see. The Tony Elliott area is off to an ignominious start, but I think Chandler Morris, if we're talking about that range, I feel like he's a little more bankable. They're going to have to be a little more creative, and their defense isn't going to be as good as the Belichick's, which theirs is coached by Steve Belichick, of course, leaving Washington to go with his pops.
Exactly. I look at Gio, and I'm like, it's almost 2,600 yards, 18 touchdowns on a school that really only had Jamal Pritchett. There wasn't much, help in the wide receiver room. They were all hurt. They were running a fourth-string freshman wide receiver on the opposite side of Pritchett. And then you mentioned the guy that I think kind of helps Lopez in Davion Goss. I think, he's like a very small baby version of a Myron Hampton where he can kind of take that chunk yard play. He absorbs the contact. So I think with him, bringing almost 500 yards on the ground like he comes, last year, I think that might help him in a way where they're not just going to be able to key on him running the ball, so it will give him some open lanes. Their schedule wasn't that difficult as well. And I don't think Gio went there just to be a guy that's going to hand the ball off, because he could have just got better where he was for, to boast his stats. If that's
he wasn't getting paid though.
Oh,
he was getting paid P4 money over there. That's what
he took him he was a late enter to the portal. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because Belichick sent out the bat signal. Said, hey,
he needed something.
We're paying. Get us a QB.
We're talking about money. We're talking about get me a QB. Let's talk about Nico Iamaleava here. Out of Tennessee, now at UCLA. I'm still on the train, and I think that this season could be big for him in fantasy. What are your thoughts on Nico here in the Tadpole?
Yeah, a part of the appeal for our purposes in the Tadpole Bowl is that he's going over to UCLA, and that UCLA brought over Tino Sunseri, who was the offensive coordinator at Indiana last year. So when we're dealing with that, it's like, okay, we expect him to have that Signetti-type system, which is just so potent and so friendly to QB stats. So when you take a 5-star, look, that was his first year starting last year. You're going to see quarterbacks struggle in their first action. It's not a finished product just because you have 1 year and you're learning the ropes in the SEC for Tennessee with a bad wide receiver core and no tight end. So I'm willing to give him a bit of a mulligan on that. But keep in mind with UCLA, their defense was awesome last year, at least their front, Their defensive end, lead defensive end was a 3rd-round draft pick. You had Carson Schlesinger, the heart and soul in the middle of that defense, middle linebacker. He was I want to say like number 34 overall. He's like the 2nd pick or so in the 2nd round. So he's top 35 draft pick, almost a 1st rounder. And you got Kane Madrano, who's the other really super active, ultra athletic linebacker who would be on the will side. So you're talking about like 3 NFL caliber front 7 defenders that were really, so important to the success of that team, after losing D'Anton Lynn over to USC. So it was a true reset year last year for UCLA in just about every respect. Replacing Chase Garbers, I mean, just to say that is a upgrade of many, many, many magnitudes. That's a big deal. But, with Nico, he's a freak athlete. He has all the profile is all there. It's just a matter of can he settle into that system on short time. Didn't have a spring really to work on that stuff, coming into the summer and have a good hold of it. They're going to have to be more active. They're going to have to be more dynamic than they were last season because they were able to rest on that pretty incredible athletic defense, based on the talent. They're going to have to do a lot more in order to win games this year, and they're going to have to press the gas in a way that they simply couldn't last year. Not the matter that they might not even wanted to. I think they had to protect that defense because there was no way they were going to outshoot teams. They had to try to grind them out. So I think you're going to see a lot more activity, a lot more willingness to kind of take chances, and we'll see how Nico progresses. Obviously, I think I'll be better off in the second half of next season and even into 2026 because he'll be back.
Yeah.
He's just too raw. But I'm ready, and I'm interested in seeing what he has to offer for us. And I think in terms of these quarterbacks that we're talking about, Nico's the best value of that group we've talked about so far. It's just you got to look at the upside, and for time immemorial, guys like Bo Nix, that second act. I think you could even say Jackson Arnold nowadays. The second act guys who are post-type sweepers, to use a baseball sort of phrasing. I'm always trying to find reasons for talented guys and supreme athletes like Nico to find that path to come back and be relevant. So if you're just going by, best ball scoring, he's got an ADP of 140. He's going around Bo Pribula, Blake Shapen, Dylan Raiola in 6-point passing touchdown leagues, Nico Marchiol, who may be splitting time with Jalen Henderson at West Virginia now that Rich Rod's there. So when you're talking about value in there, I'd take Nico over every single one of those guys, no matter what, because of the full package of the passing and the throwing. He does have a true dual threat profile, not a solo threat.
Right.
There's growth to be had here.
And I don't know if the veer and shoot offense fit Nico's skill set. I think where he's at now at UCLA and that type of offense and that scheme will be a lot better for him. But like you said, I think they're going to have the flame open early and they're going to let the floodgates go. One more quarterback before we go into running backs. He's probably a higher ranked guy, but the average guy, you know, in the Scott Fish Bowl or the Tadpole League who's not familiar with him because he's coming from the G5, but he has a huge opportunity. And we've seen even last year, they went through 3 quarterbacks at Utah and they all put up numbers whenever they played. Talk to me about Devon Dampier and, you know, is he a guy that could be up there with the big name guys that they're targeting in the first round? Is there an opportunity for him to put up those numbers this year?
Well, yeah, Devon Dampier. Gosh, if you want to talk about some guys, I was a little surprised in terms of their draft capital. Dampier is at the top of that list when it comes to Tadpole stuff. Currently looking at right around QB6, and that's pretty consistent what we're seeing from his Best Bowl Mania over on Underdog numbers. Just a meteoric rise because people were expecting. He's following his offensive coordinator from New Mexico to Utah, replacing the longtime Kyle Whittingham's offensive coordinator, Andy Ludwig, out. The tight end guru. If you had wanted tight ends, man, for years and years, go to Utah. But with Ludwig out, you know, in comes that New Mexico system that has serious dual threat capabilities here. And they had to kind of switch because they went into last season, if you remember, with the Dave Grohl lookalike, Cam Rising, coming off an injury, missed the entire season before, and just couldn't get healthy. So they were forced to throw the younger Wilson, Zach Wilson's little brother Isaac Wilson, out there as a true freshman, and that kid just was not ready to handle the job.
Yeah, they went through 3. He was like the 3rd starter, right? Everybody got injured, and that was the end of it.
I think he was the number 2 starter, and he was so bad they had to go with somebody else. He was terrible. So I'm at the Elite 11. I knew that was coming immediately. I took as many unders as I possibly could that they would allow me on Isaac Wilson's passing. That being said, with Dampier, another true dual threat profile, but he was able to get away with a lot. You know, like you could get away with a lot in the Mountain West level with the kind of cool, fun offense they were running, the up-tempo scheme, you know, a lot of different motion. Right. But Dampier is 5'11", 204. That's what he's billed at. He's probably even a little littler than that. Threw 12 interceptions last year. That's a big number for college. Right. Completed 57% of his passes. There's reason for concern there. You know, I mean, does that exactly – I mean, I don't know if, like Nico, I feel much better about his ability to handle that transition over the Big Ten and his ability to be a credible P4 passer. I don't know if we can get that at Dampier. You know, we're in uncharted waters with him. And he has that sort of potential solo threat profile that could get in trouble. Sure, he's going to be the QB. They're going to lean on him. But that doesn't mean he's going to be consistent. I think what you'd see is not as much passing and just the Utah offensive line. They have 2 NFL tackles. Spencer Fano is their left tackle. He will be a top 15 pick next year. And then their right tackle as well, probably like a solid day 2. With multiple other starters on the inside. They're going to be, again, we talk about the offensive lines. We talked about it before with A&M. Utah will be right there. They'll be the best offensive line in the Big 12. But at the same time, they have a really good D as well. You have a defensive-minded head coach in Whittingham. While they have put points on the board before, where they've kind of needed to, they don't have to be as aggressive. And they were real rough offensively last season. Like they were barely a 20-point-per-game offense in a league where you got to be at the 30-point-per-game mark, and you got to be closer to 35 if you want to be competitive. I think they will be competitive. I think they are better than the majority of the competition in the Big 12. But at QB6, man, Dampier has to absolutely max out his potential, in my opinion. I don't have a lot of shares where he's going. He is one of the absolute premium quarterbacks you'd be looking at in any Tadpole, underdog, or P4 format. But there's still a little bit of projection involved given the transfer.
All right, so let's one quick question here before we go on to the next grouping. If you say so, if you have him at 5, you had him at 5. Is that what you had him at?
Where do I have Dampier?
Well, where's he going now draft wise?
He's going 6. He's QB 6.
QB 6. So that would, I mean, pretty much like what, end of second round? Probably.
Yeah, I would say he's actually going around the turn at times, or mid-second. He is more often than not in the recent drafts, he's mid to low second, because the QBs have gotten pushed up a little bit in recent drafts, especially in underdog. It's the effect of the best ball bros on the marketplace.
So if you were sitting at that position, say, you know, in the back end of the second, Dampier is available to you, but there's some juicy wide receivers that are on the block there. Would you maybe go with the Cam Coleman, someone in that aspect, and then, or not to say Coleman, but someone in that quality of wide receiver, and then maybe wait for a Jackson Arnold a little later? Do you feel that the upside of Jackson Arnold, now with that wide receiver room at Auburn, he could possibly put up Devon Dampier quality numbers this year?
Well, the idea that you want to try to get in these P4, be it underdog, be it the Tadpole, is you want to make sure you're getting the Tyler Warren or the John Matayer of this year. Like, who is going to be that guy that you can go and get down at the end of drafts that are the difference makers that allow you to bolster the more projectable shots that you're taking in the first half. Those guys are the ones that you're looking for. When you're talking about how it could happen, we know that Hugh Freeze, his seat is piping hot right now. Piping hot. I had the pleasure of attending Auburn hosting Arkansas in the SEC opener week 4 last year. So I was in Jordan Hare Stadium. I was on the field, have a picture with the literal War Eagle itself, and that media room session for Hugh Freeze after that game, where they allowed 6 3rd and 10 conversions and 3 horrific turnovers, where they were beating on the line. They were beating Arkansas from pillar to post, but they just kept letting. They were doing their job on first, second down. They were all over Talon Green and his horrific pocket presence. I mean, he is positively Shadur Sanders-esque. As soon as he feels it, he's running. Oh, he's running, boy. Oh, no. Where are we going? He's just, like, totally bailing from the pocket. That was pure Talon Green all game against Auburn. I guarantee you go watch that. But that room was basically a mortuary when I entered it and watched that press. The Auburn fan base, that's a proud fan base. They're not too happy with what's going on. Hugh Freeze needs to gun it. He needs to swing it. He's got all the talent you can want over there. Even if Malcolm Simmons, has some issues, dude, you still got Perry Thompson. You still got Eric Singleton coming in and his 4.4 speed out of Georgia Tech. He could totally play that underneath role and that, mid to intermediate extended handoff role, use that speed. And then you have Cam Coleman, who is a true alpha X wide receiver. He works the boundary as good as really any wide receiver not named Jeremiah Smith in all of college football.
Thanks.
That's not really what Jordan Tyson does. Man, like in terms of true X, and this isn't, so much a knock on TJ Moore, or guys of that ilk, who also has a pretty dominant profile, or Carnell Tate. Man, I look at Corey Coleman, and if there weren't Jeremiah Smith, we'd be talking about Corey Coleman as being Jeremiah Smith.
Thank you.
We would have to invent him for it. So I think that you're going to see desperation. You're going to see more Hugh Freeze slinging it out, throwing the kitchen sink. And with Jackson Arnold, again, just like Nico, has that post-hype. Jackson Arnold, he won the Elite 11 2 years ago.
Gatorade Player of the Year, 50-plus touchdowns.
Gatorade Player of the Year. Just touchdown. I mean, I watched him. I loved what I saw when I got my eyes on him. I was like, oh, my gosh, this kid looks great. I even have let's see here. Yeah. We'll do it. We'll do it, Nico. There's a Jackson Arnold right there.
Oh.
Bowman University Chrome 10. A dime. Jackson Arnold. So I believe in the talent. I think that he has the arm talent to do it. Can he make the reads? Can he make the progressions? Can he settle into a new system? Clearly wasn't comfortable in Oklahoma. Period. And his offensive coordinator at Oklahoma is not the offensive coordinator in Oklahoma anymore. Right. Obviously, with Matayer coming in, they bring in Ben Arbuckle, his offensive coordinator at Washington State. So the whole thing changed. I want to pin that all on Jackson Arnold. And as you know, the entire wide receiver core was injured. Deion Burks didn't even see a Big 12 game.
Yeah. They put wide receiver 6 by week 3.
It was brutal.
He had more rushing attempts than their running backs. It was Jackson Arnold, the running back, not Jackson Arnold, the quarterback.
Yeah, and it was Jackson pro-style quarterback, too. Yeah. That's what we thought coming out of high school. And they're running the veer. Oh, awesome. Great.
Yeah.
Wonderful. They were better off just putting Michael Hawkins in, who is a dual. He was a true solo threat.
They tried that. It didn't work out either.
Yeah, he's terrible. That's all he does is run. He cannot throw a forward pass. They were in such a bad spot last year. And, their defense will be great, Oklahoma, this year. They're going to be phenomenal. We'll see what happens with that new offense. But I'm not ready. You can't give up on QBs after their first year. They're learning from a fire hose. It's so difficult. It's the hardest position in all of sports. I like senior QBs because you look at Jayden Daniels after his first year starting. Guess what? Nobody thought he was anything.
Arizona
Zero buzz whatsoever. Anybody who told you they were on Jayden Daniels after his first season are liars.
Even after the second season, they gave Garrett Nussmeier a bag of money to stay there because they weren't sure that Jayden Daniels was going to progress.
It was going to be it was saying, all right, well, because Nuss came in at the end of that year and had a couple of starts when we got banged up. You look good. You look like look like what you expect out of an offensive coordinator.
100%.
Kid. We'll put it that way. And we know his dad is the offensive coordinator of the Saints. So, bye-bye, Derek Carr. I forget. The Carr brothers.
The Carr brothers were.
The Carr brothers.
All right.
Awesome.
Let's go to the running back department. A department that might not be as deep as these other departments, okay? These other positions here. It's a P4 status as well. So, the big name guys, like Hughes and Love, Singleton, Hardy, Brown, Jonah Coleman, those guys, we all know coming off the board real quick, real fast. But let's talk about a guy that you mentioned a little earlier. I was a big fan of Booth last year. He didn't get to 1,000 yards, but he was able to get to about 800 yards. And while they split it, they ran 2 backs out there in Mississippi State, and they weren't really, they didn't really figure out their identity, I don't think, right off the rip. Blake Shapen didn't really kind of grab the bull by the horns. But what are your thoughts on Fluff Bothwell coming over from South Alabama? He had 1,200 yards. I think he had double-digit touchdowns or close to it. It looked explosive. Was able to run inside and out. He has the speed to beat the edge on the outside, but he can bang on the inside and take off, absorbs contact well. What are your thoughts on him in the Tadpole League and in fantasy?
With Fluff, it's amazing you should ask me about this because literally this weekend, I watched every single carry. I was hanging out with Baconfield, Elliot Mays, who's my co-worker at Fantasy Points. And we were hanging out, getting ready for the Austin Tadpole draft, and we were talking about different stuff. And we got on the Mississippi State situation. I was like, you know what? I'm curious to see what Booth and Bothwell, Devon Booth is the incumbent, look like, and see who I think will be the starting running back there. So I watched Booth first, watched just about every carry he had last year, unless I was distracted with something. And then I went over to Bothwell, and my gosh.
Yeah.
What a difference in terms of talent between Booth and Bothwell. Booth has a more linear frame, sort of up and down, not as stocky, or thick with his lower half, that's what Bothwell is, 5'10", 215. Good, solid lower halves, which you like to see, but with Booth, everything's between the tackles.
Right.
It's pick a gap. You're gonna if you're two gapping, which one's it gonna be? Where's the linebacker peeking? All right, you take the other side, sort of thing. and they're just going right in those gaps. They never bounce it outside. And I don't know. That's something where the offensive coordinator, if Levy's just saying, we want you to stick to the gaps, don't try to bounce it, or that's him. But when he'd get one-on-one with the linebackers in the hole, he didn't have the agility to miss. You don't see the jump cuts. You don't really see the elusiveness until he gets to that second level. And then he can, when he has time to set up and manipulate a converging safety who's flowing downhill, yeah, he can stick a dead leg in the ground, and throw a juke at him.
Yeah.
But it isn't. He doesn't make the first defender miss. He's not good in close quarters. And then I went and watched Fluff, and it was the exact opposite.
100%.
Jump, the jump cuts, just changing the entire landscape. Oh, we're in this gap. Boom, shoot over. Oh, no, I'm in this gap.
Explosive.
Deceptive.
Yeah,
and then he's going through. But just the contact balance, too.
Yeah.
Where he's able to attack the edges of defenders, and if you're going to try to arm tackle him, he'll bully you, too. So, you saw just more of a complete profile out of Bothwell, has the SEC size. I think he should be the 1A, and Booth should be the change of pace back, in my opinion. And when you're, last year was year one of Mississippi State, they're just getting it together. They're just trying to field a team and not get smoked in the SEC in a complete reset after Armstead kind of, former DC there, just kind of puked all over that program. So
2 years straight of being puked on, right? Like
Zach
Arnett, and then
yeah, Zach Arnett, brutal.
That was gross.
Brutal. I can't believe he got that job in the first place, but that's fine.
Default.
Yeah, so I'm Team Bothwell, and it's funny. I was talking with Steve Palazzolo, our friend, former PFF, him and Sam Monson, the Check the Mic podcast. He had been doing some. I talked to him about the Fluff, and he loves him too. Yeah. Steve's an excellent talent evaluator, and both of us thumbs up on Fluff Bothwell. Extremely underrated, especially from we're talking Devy Degens here. Devy perspective. I don't know if because Devy, you guys have limited roster spots, and you're going in that. I don't know if you'd be like a priority ad for those purposes, but C2C, you get kind of the best of both worlds.
Bring them all on. Yeah.
Yeah, because you're going to get his production. You have a bigger roster to stash him on, so you can let him kind of develop a little bit and see what happens without tying up too much draft capital that you could look and say, here's an impact freshman like AK Deer, or you want to take a shot on Clarizio or somebody from Michigan State who's getting some buzz, or Usman Chroma from Florida State. You want to take a high-end, high variance freshman shot. I wouldn't want to roster Bothwell over one of those guys. I try to shoot the moon for the new guys.
Gotcha. So, but in the Tadpole League, Fluff is
Fluff is a good, solid addition to a Tadpole League. Absolutely.
Where's he from? Top 25?
No, stop it, Nico.
Top 35?
No, Nino Toscani. Come on now, Steven Seagal. Hard to kill.
You don't have him in the top 30 running back in fantasy?
No, what for Tadpole
Yeah.
purposes? No. He is not a top. He's not getting drafted with that kind of draft capital. I have him 35 range, right in that range. I'd say I put Fegan ahead of him. I'd rather have Mark Fletcher. I'd rather have Carson Hansen. Like this is the Emmett Johnson.
Hansen isn't a running back by committee, possibly. I mean,
Carson Hansen is the most athletic white running back we've seen since Christian McCaffrey.
I agree.
And he's 220 pounds.
Yes.
And he's handsome.
But he has competition. He has competition. He just had competition.
He doesn't have competition. He fully cucked Abu Sama. He's a good little boy. He'll stay in his little lane. That is Carson's job. I'm not worried about it. How dare you put Fluff Bothwell ahead of him? Dylan Jones in Wisconsin. Give me Trey Wisener. Give me Kyson Brown, who's leading the competition over there at Arizona State. Give me James Peoples. Give me Dalen Smothers. Definitely give me Wayshawn Parker and Wayman Jordan, all the way boys right there. There's too many good projectable running backs on more powerful running offenses with more developed offensive lines with less difficult schedules. Have to factor that in because in Tadpole Bowl, it's not best ball. You have to start guys. And if you're going to start somebody at Mississippi State, you're going to have at least 6 weeks that you can't even put him on the field or thinking about it because they're going to get boat raced and it's going to put them out of script game flow wise to be really running the ball. That's the problem with Fluff. You can't have him in the top 30. He's a fringe top 40 candidate. I'd say right around 35 to 40.
He's the definition of your late round running back that you want to grab.
He's in the way. Well, the good thing is ADP wise, you still got Booth,
right?
Who, because people look at numbers, like, all right, well, Booth is there, so they have a similar almost ADP, but you can go and sandbag and wait, and then once you see Booth go, you can grab Bothwell, or you can just be aggressive and take the lead on that. So, that's the problem that you get. Startability is the issue. Startability in college fantasy football. You have to account for the disparate talent levels, and we have a doormat in the SEC playing badasses. Bad things happen.
All right, let's talk about a guy I think stock rose over the last couple of days out in the Big 12. Fully healthy, probably going to be getting a lot. Their defense is pretty stout. LJ Martin out in BYU. Retzlaff's gone. Really don't know what the quarterback situation is going to be at BYU. We've seen LJ Martin get almost 800 yards and 7 touchdowns in a small amount of games. He was injured for majority of the season. What are your thoughts here in startability? Because I have a funny feeling this guy's going to be getting every carry, every opportunity. They're going to be loading him up.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to clearly have to, because there's not a lot of good options there at quarterback for the purity test boys over there at BYU. Clearly, Mr. Retzlaff failed the purity test, and that's why he's going over to Tulane. That being said, I don't know, Bear Bachmeier, the brother of the famous Hank Bachmeier.
Tiger Bachmeier's there as well.
Tiger Bachmeier's, brother, wide receiver from Stanford going over there. Who knows what we're going to get over there. That is a very tenuous situation. And even though, obviously, we're talking about the opportunity for LJ Martin, where there's just a complete sense of desperation and lack of any sort of realistic alternatives there, you got to factor in the fact that now they can't throw the ball. What are you going to do? I mean, they're going to be keen. He's going to be facing 8-man boxes left and right. And this is a guy who, while he was effective, as mentioned, 5.3 yards per carry, had a respectable 83 run grade in terms of PFF and what have you, but 3.4 yards after contact. He's 6'2", 220. You're trusting 3.4 yak over there, and that was when BYU was super competitive last year. Right. They were real good last year. Have a sub 100 elusiveness rating, doesn't break tackles at the rate that you want to see, doesn't catch passes. Big guy, should score the touchdowns, will be the lead guy. But I'm finding that where he's being drafted, he certainly has a very respectable profile, and he's in a pretty prominent position. Because of that very same reason we're talking about, is he's perceived as being projectable. Right. He's right around the RB20 right now, 25. I think that's even a little bit too ambitious. It's more just people looking at it as a security thing, because there's so many split backfields that we have to deal with right now. Most backfields you're going to have some kind of a credible 1B or RB2. Martin really doesn't have that. So just 54% of their offensive line snaps returning. That's not bad. 3.5 offensive linemen. All right, he'll be fine in that shape. But lack of an alternative kind of makes me a little nervous. And I think he's being overdrafted where he is at this current moment. I would put him closer to RB30 than RB20.
Okay. I'm going to piggyback these two guys. We're talking about late round guys and sleepers here. We got a kind of a guy that left, so the guy coming in is going to replace him. But I think both of these guys have some value. Roman Hemby leaves Maryland, now going to Indiana. We saw what Indiana was able to do last year with 2 running backs, guys who kind of couldn't figure it out. They were able to figure it out in 24 for the Hoosiers. So Hemby takes over there with Mendoza at the quarterback position. They kind of loaded on offense all the way around. And then we see Nolan Ray, who in a spotty time for Maryland when Hemby was out or needed, kind of had some breakaway runs. He saw that 50-yard reception for a touchdown where he was kind of juking and jiving on the whole field. We're talking late-round running backs and sleepers here. What are your thoughts on Nolan Ray and Roman Hemby?
Well, I can tell you right now, the Roman Hemby The Roman Hemby rushing yardage unders on a weekly basis will be missed. It was a great run we had with him in Maryland, but because he was he was used probably much more effectively in the passing game out of the backfield,
right? 40%
for Maryland, where that was like a part of the Josh Gaddis system was making sure that like you could get him out there in space and use those essentially extended handoffs. You get a lot of them. That was really the fantasy utility, but he was not between the tackles, not an instinctive runner, not somebody who I particularly was impressed with, and made a nice little mint off of his unders as stated. I fully support Nolan Ray in this. I feel like he's one of the better round 20 plus type options at the running back position because I don't see him having any competition really in the backfield. He's what you're looking for in terms of size. He's 5'11", 215, right on the money, what you're looking for. But then he ran with power and just a sturdiness and ability to withstand contact that just you didn't see out of Hemby. 4.17 yards after contact is no joke. Broke 27 tackles in 75 rush attempts. It's like a 35% broke a tackle rate. Man, put it this way, Bijan was in the 40% range. Okay, he was like over there. You're at 35? Bro.
Yeah.
You're doing good work, and they're going to have to lean on him because in Maryland, they have sort of restructuring going on too. They lose Ty Felton. They lose a third-round, wide receiver.
Quarterback.
Hayden Prather, they lose too. They're their top two wide receivers. Lose Dante, lose Fleming. Right? Oh, geez, Fleming comes in. Oh God, their other it escapes me. Whoever their other.
Well, their quarterback left. MJ Morris is gone. Right.
MJ Morris is gone.
They're going to start a true freshman and Malik Washington.
Who I saw at the Elite 11 camp, and I'll tell you, that kid's got an arm.
Stud.
Big boy. Ball pops out of that kid's hand, and easy gas too. Some of those kids that you don't see them really channeling their lower half, so they're losing a little bit of velocity and just overall power. Ball pops out of his hands. He was, in terms of the strongest arms you saw there, Tavian St. Clair. And then I would say Malik Washington was right there with St. Clair in terms of power.
Right.
Guys like Julian Lewis, he just didn't have that.
Right.
But that's that. I am a big proponent of Nolan Ray.
Love it.
Where he's going because of the usage you should get. Obviously, it's not ideal that he's on a lower half team this year. There's sort of been a restructuring in Maryland, but there's reason to like his profile. And at least, from a C2C perspective, could be, again, Devy. Your benches are so short, and it prioritizes elite traits and elite, at least scouting sort of a thing. You want to have the best prospects you can from the best teams that develop the best. But C2C, he's a very nice, low, high floor, low risk ad that could develop into something. Maybe he goes and slips into round 5 or something, and you get a potential shot in the NFL.
All right, I love it. I got another guy here. SEC guy. Team's loaded. Wide receiver room is loaded. They're returning probably. Outside of Arch Manning, one of the most hyped up QB talks with him, DJ Lagway. Talk to me about Jaydan Baugh, where you got him ranked in.
Oh, dude, you had to pull out Jaydan Baugh on me, huh? Jaydan Baugh is one of my 2 favorite sleeper C2C Devy running backs from this class, right? That will be eligible for next season. Now, obviously, everybody's talking about the 2027 class. Everyone's talking about the 2025 running back class. Everybody's besmirching 2026, of course, except for the potential of some pretty good QBs to come in. But Jaydan Baugh, I really, really like. In terms of the guys who are in college right now, if I'm looking at a Devy perspective, guys who can develop, it's him. He's got the classic 5'9", 225, but incredibly agile. Very tough to square up in the hole. Rarely does the first defender get a hand on him and bring him down. Too powerful just to simply grab and lean on him. He will stiff arm you out of your cleats, and just very fluid hips, good vision, hips. Montrell Johnson's gone. It's going to be him and Jakobi Jackson.
Yep.
In the backfield, I see Baugh leading that. I see from a NFL perspective. I think he's a top 10 in the world of college football, regardless of class. I think he has top 10 RB potential. I think he will be drafted third round. I think he's got real day 2 potential. Day 2, round 2 might be tough, but like that day 3 range, excuse me, round 3 range, I feel like he could be there. I love Jaydan Baugh. He's one of my 2 most favorite underrated running backs that I've been able to acquire at very reasonable costs. The other one being Le'Veon Moss, who I talked a little bit with Texas A&M, coming off an ACL is the only thing. But even so, man, I have 9 shares of him. I put out a tweet about him last week. I have 9 shares, 3 C2C. I only have 4 C2C leagues. 3 of them have Le'Veon Moss. 6 shares for college fantasy football purposes. He's one of my most owned players. And the fact that he came out in SEC Media Days and was named by the press as the one of the, alongside Trey Wisner, first team SEC running backs was just a sweet vindication. Let me tell you something. You want some Le'Veon Moss? I think it's the same deal. Post-hype sleeper. Everybody slept on him 2 years ago because Reuben Owens came in. It was a big 5-star prospect who everybody's like, oh my gosh, he runs like a 10.3, 4, whatever, 100 meters. Le'Veon Moss is the real deal. Get ready. As long as there's no health concerns, and like by the end of the year, he's going to be popping, and you're going to be talking about him as a round 3 running back. And Baugh and Moss are my 2 favorite sleeper running backs for C2C Devy purposes.
I'm glad I brought him up right towards the end of this. He is a guy that I think fully healthy in that system where they can't stack the boxes against him because you have a mobile quarterback and a fully loaded wide receiver room. This kid could go off on a weekly basis.
I agree. I'm so excited about their prospect, both of them. Very excited.
All right, one last. Give me which guy you would target first. This will be the last guy. This last section for the running backs. Justice Hayes, now at Michigan, or Jaydn Ott, now in the Ben Arbuckle system at Oklahoma?
It was the easiest question I may have gotten in all the offseason pertaining to Devy/C2C. Jaydn Ott is worthless.
Wow.
Worthless. Bro, you're going to pull what he pulled last year. You got to understand, all right? He's over there at Cal. Cal was good last year. Their offense, Jack Endries. Jack Endries is the top. Jack Endries, friend of the CFF community. His dad, Robert Endries, big data wonk and fan. Like I've been friends with him for 2 years, talking with him behind the scenes about when my tight end column is coming out. But I go through some of the metrics that define a successful CFF C2C tight end. Jack pops in all of those sort of metrics. Talk with his dad, just an amazing guy, super sharp. I hope to hang out with the Endries clan for Ohio State, Texas, which I plan to be at from on the field, hopefully, from NBC. So I'm pretty fired up about that. Love Jack. The point is, Fernando Mendoza, Jack Endries. Jaydn Ott's there. You know who's better than Jaydn Ott? You know who's better? Jet Thomas. Give me
UNLV, baby.
Thomas. No. Javian Thomas,
okay.
Who's now at UCLA. Right? That's a whole different deal.
Well, you said Jet, that's why I got you.
Oh no problem. But he's also Jet. Apparently it's a trendy nickname. But yes, so Jet Thomas just clearly outplayed him. I took him in every single one of my college fantasy dynasty, my big 20-plus team double deep dynasty leagues. I have several that I do to 16-plus. So anytime you can get somebody like that. And on my C2C leagues, I forget who they played, but I watched one Cal game, got the eyeball test, and there was no comparison between the two. Jet Thomas was just far and away better. Here's a little fun for you, a little fun factor, Mr. Jaydn Ott. Last year, 116 carries, 3.3 yards per carry, Javian Thomas was over 5.
Right.
Okay, so there's an apples-apples comparison in 116 carries. 1.94 yards after contact.
Falls down.
For those of you who aren't yak people, let me personally explain to you. That is a disgustingly, unacceptably, shamefully low amount of elusiveness. If for anybody, period, to even be a starting running back at that level, just to even be on the field. You don't see guys that have a sub-2 yak.
That's falling over.
Even see the field.
Yeah.
You can't do it.
Yeah.
You're falling over. You're breathing on you. You're falling.
Yes.
You are worthless from a power perspective. You're basically third down and long, draw play. That's all you can do. I mean, I know that, he's fast. He had some good track times. I've watched him. I've seen him with my own eyes. Do not draft Jaydn Ott under any circumstances. And frankly, I pounded his under at 849.5 when the season longs came out on Underdog and Prize Picks. Destroyed it. Maxed out my Jaydn Ott unders for his underdog line for season long props. Was at 849 all the way down to 699. The market destroyed him. Wow. They're talking about rotating running backs there at Oklahoma. You got Javonte Barnes. You got Talon Taylor, who was the number 1 running back last year.
Yeah.
No big deal. You have Xavier Robinson, who even though he was like Robbie 30, he came out and he was just as explosive, if not better, than Talon Taylor. You got Barnes was hurt when he came in. You got those guys. You got 3 guys who were incumbents. Sure, Gabe Sawchuk leaves. He was already thrown in the back of that bus anyways. Who knows how that's going to work out? You hear Arbuckle, who Washington State, the rotated running back, they're there to throw. You got Matayer in there, who's a running back on his own, who's just a battering ram. Everything I'm seeing says either committee or just a full cucking for Jaydn Ott. Give me Justice Haynes, though he's battling with Jordan Marshall too. It's an easy call, what I'd prefer. I like Justice Haynes. I think he has real potential. I'm glad he got away from Jamarian Miller, who really doesn't do anything for me for Alabama. He could really explode there in Michigan.
I love it. I think I was surprised you said 0 value, but I think I'm with you with the Justice Hayes pick. Michigan's going
to zero share. I have 20 leagues or so college fantasy and CGC.
They don't know who they're running with quarterback in Michigan. Until they figure that out, the identity is going to be ground and pound. And if Bryce Underwood does take the helm, they're not going to give this kid, he's going to have a short leash. They're not going to want to give him too many plays. So I think Justice Hayes is going to have a career year at Michigan. So I'm with you right there. I'll take Justice Hayes. All right. Let's hit the wide receiver room real quick, and then we'll throw out a couple tight ends that I think, might pop. Out of these top-tier guys, we said Ryan Williams, Jeremiah Smith, Cam Coleman, the big names. There's a guy that I think that deserves to be up there. I know we're talking late-round stuff, but I've been an advocate of this gentleman since he came in his class. I thought he should have been ranked about 10 spots higher than where he was ranked. And I think he's starting to prove it. Outside of touchdowns, he led USC in every statistical category, and he is the returner, and we spoke about it. Froton, you know how I feel about my guy. Give me all the lemonade and Makai Lemon. I think he deserves to be in the top 5. I think he will finish this year as a top 5 wide receiver. But I don't know if he's getting that type of respect in the community right now. Talk to me about Makai Lemon.
First off, Froton gives Makai Lemon respect. Here is a 10 of 10 Makai Lemon autograph. Bowman University first card. Got that for like sub $10 before the season last year. That's probably easy, cool $100 or so right now with room to move up. Makai Lemon. As you know, though I'm from Boston. I'm from Boston just like Nino dudes. Don't worry,
baby.
Fucking, I'm one of the guys. Nino down in Fall River. When I go home to Rhode Island, I go and I see Nino over at Fall River. So just because I'm from Boston, I moved to San Diego 20 years ago. I am a SoCal boy now. The accent's gone, Nino. I am SoCal through and through. I can't help it. I am a USC boy. USC is my team. I got to watch Makai Lemon and Jakobi Lane just absolutely take control of that wide receiver room. Deuce Robinson, bye-bye. Bye, Deuce. Hey, have fun in Florida State.
Zachariah Branch.
Zachariah Branch. Bye. And the reason why Zachariah Branch ain't around is because Makai Lemon is better than him.
100%.
Took control of that room. And again, we'll go with the props front, dude. He was a dream, Makai Lemon. It's always tenuous going with wide receiver overs. When you're talking about college, it's tough because, you can get schemed out. Game flow can go against you.
Right.
Are you going to get the volume that game? There's a lot of factors that can go: wind, weather, elements. And so many things can go against you. But man, week in, week out, Makai Lemon. I remember seeing him week 3 and just being desperate. Like, wow, this guy, he's better than Branch. He's taking control of the room because they could target him downfield. They could trust him to do more complicated routes downfield, which, from the slot, you could do drags, you could do the quick posts. Hitches. Like he has such a diverse bag. All you could really do with Zachariah Branch was do those little bubble screens
and run a 9 as far as we go.
Yeah, it was a very basic tree. I couldn't do much with them. The extended handoffs that they try to do. They'd be creative, try to game plan. This is Lincoln Riley. No matter what it was, they couldn't get. He just doesn't have downfield ball skills. He doesn't have, the ability to be nuanced and be deceptive and manipulate defenders with his routes. He just isn't as clean. Just because he's twitchy.
Returner.
It wasn't good. Nowhere near as good. Fun fact: Makai Lemon has the highest kick return yardage for all returning receivers that are starting receivers in the Power 4 in all of FBS. Number 1 returning receiver in terms of kick return yardage. That's a starting receiver, not just some gadget guy who goes out and returns kicks.
Wide receiver. Yeah, exactly.
Yep. He had over 500 return yards last year in a Tadpole Bowl format where return yards are essentially passing yards. He's racking up 45 a game. That's an extra 2.5 points for you. Right around that range that you just wouldn't have gotten otherwise from other, players. So Makai Lemon has been a real, from a Tadpole Bowl perspective, a very extremely valuable asset. He's going probably in that round 3-4 turn because simply the running backs and the quarterbacks all go within the first 2 rounds. Like they're flooded. Mm-hmm. If it isn't for the big 3, Tyson, Smith, Ryan Williams, and then pretty much Cam Coleman, that's it.
TJ Ford.
Those are the ones.
Yeah.
TJ Moore is even further down. But there's only 4 wide receivers that are consistently going. In the first 2 rounds. You may get a McAllister slipping, you get a Denzel Boston sometimes. Most times those guys in the Tadpole, because there's such a premium on the other positions, they're falling down the wayside. So solid. Once you get past the big 4, after Cam Coleman, I would have no problem with anybody in Tadpole Bowl formats that goes, all right, well, I'm taking my wide receiver 5 is Makai Lemon because of his usage and because of he's going to return kicks and he's going to be good. He's going to have 500-600 yards. It's an extra 2-3 points a game.
All right. I've been a Makai Lemon guy forever, and I think that he's
just
starting to get the respect he deserves. Talk to me about a guy I think kind of will. People might say he's touchdown dependent. I think it might be more of his success kind of might relate to how his quarterback does. Talk about a guy on Michigan State that I think is a stud wide receiver, Nick Marsh.
Nick Marsh. Guy. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I like Nick Marsh a lot. No, I really do. I think he has legitimate breakout potential this year. Somewhat depressed in terms of value for college fantasy football purposes because of the lack of real potency of that Michigan State offense last year.
Right.
Keep in mind, man, what a tough situation for Jonathan Smith, current head coach, former head coach of Oregon State, to step into. The Mel Tucker deal, you know what I mean? He was heading out. Heading out.
Yeah.
It was after the season. It was after recruiting. It lost so many guys once the changeover in the portal. It was a true year 0, complete reset that they had to deal with last year. And it's the new expanded Big Ten where you get USC, you got Oregon, you got Washington, you got UCLA, you got all these new teams coming in. They changed the way that the scheduling's done. So it was a total reset for them. Year 2, Aiden Childs has a year under his belt there to kind of be comfortable. He has potential. He has, growth that you can see from him. And there was plenty of warts there, but there was some good moments too that you can hang your hat on and say, well, if you can do that more,
Jack Velling over there at tight end.
Jack Velling, 60 target tight end. Okay. Not a lot of 60 target tight ends in the Power 4. Isn't being prioritized. You've seen him in Tadpole and underdog drafts going in double-digit rounds, like 11 to 13 in Power 4 only formats. That's a major usage. And it's just because he didn't catch touchdowns, because they didn't score touchdowns last year.
Thank you.
But, they weren't scoring touchdowns. They were like a 20-point per game offense. So they were really dealing with turnover in the offensive line. They have much more continuity this time around. Have a full off season. It really matters that year 1 to year 2 jump. Another team like Washington, we talked about a little bit more. That'll be the case too with them. You have to make sure that you don't just say, all right, that's what this team is. That's what they did in year 1 of a new coaching change. Just ascribe that to being all they're capable of. I don't do that. So there's natural positive regression that's going to be built into that profile with Michigan State. I think they're 5.5 when it comes to the win total. Like maybe they'll achieve bowl eligibility, but I know they're going to be more potent. Nick Marsh is another year older. He's got more experience, had some chances to take some lumps out there. They're going to be more effective. He's a 12th, 13th round right now. You're seeing him go. Really good deal. You're looking like just after the Trent Walkers of the world. Sort of a thing, for Oregon State, so more of a possession type wide receiver, with not quite the explosiveness that we come to expect from a Nick Marsh type. Maybe right around Quasi Gilmer, somewhere in that range. Quayshawn Brown,
that Plaxico Burris vibe when I get out of Nick Marsh. Like, you can test the catch guy, works the boundary well, you can bring it downfield. Doesn't have all the routes in the route tree, but the routes that he does run, he runs them well.
Yeah, I think he's a credible top 30 receiver. I think he's right around wide receiver 30, a good solid wide receiver 3 for your college fantasy team. And any sort of college fantasy format, you're going to have usage for a wide receiver 3 no matter what. All right, you're going to play 3 wideouts.
Right. We're talking.
It's going to be tough to get more upside. Yeah, it's going to be tough to get more upside than.
I feel like Nick Marsh could be a late round sleeper. There could be a guy that puts up, 8 to 10 touchdowns for you, somewhere close to 1,000 yards. Here's a guy who's been super productive over the past 2 years. Now makes his way into the SEC, but we've seen SEC wide receivers for the past maybe 5, 6, even 7 years. Trey Harris last year, Juice Wells. We saw just year after year for the past 3 or 4 years, wide receivers out of Ole Miss produce. Shon Strickland transfers in to Ole Miss out of Oklahoma State as a Cowboy. This kid was an absolute dog for the past 2 years. Physical, right? Can work the boundary, can play over the middle, takes the hit. It does well with yards after contact.
Yep.
Has good route running ability. What do you got him? Where's his ranking? What are your thoughts on him in fantasy this year?
Oh, yeah. I mean, Shon Strickland, when you look at the athletic profile, first off, that's what jumps out to you. Legitimate mid 4.4 speed. We've seen him, heard sort of that's where he's getting clocked right now. Just a great physical specimen when he was healthy. Like Oklahoma State pounded him, and they wanted him to be the feature guy badly. Because I think we know with Oklahoma State, they haven't had anybody to feature in a couple years. In terms of their wide receivers. Yeah, Brennan Presley is a slot receiver who just goes and catches those. It has like a 5-yard ADOT. But in terms of a true outside alpha, they just haven't had it. And that Oklahoma State, man, for legitimately a decade plus, the Des Bryants of the world, Rashawn Hamiltons of the world, Justin Blackmons of the world.
Like Justin Blackmon, my favorite wide receiver.
Rashawn Woods. Like, dude, they had a conga line of incredible Marcel Atewell as well. Like, he was
not many converted to the NFL, but in college they were animals.
Marcel Ateman, yeah. Oh, it was so good, right? So, like, you have a rich history of outside receivers. They got nothing for 2 years, and they wanted to receive it, but he got hurt. Coming in, Trey Harris vacates. He was obviously, Trey Harris, when he was healthy, he had 1,000 yards on like 65 targets. That's the lowest since I've been charting it back to 2019. It's the lowest amount of targets for a 1,000-yard receiver in the recent history in the last 7 years. That's outrageous. So we know that the Lane train produces points. Austin Simmons, what a great little soft handoff from Jackson Dart to Austin Simmons. His understudies there apparent. You hear great things. I just took him in a recent C2C league because he wasn't even owned in a lot of places. People didn't even realize that, like for whatever reason, even though he's a top 20 recruit, he hadn't really separated himself.
Super smart.
Dude, he's smart.
Smart.
Wicked smart, dude. But yeah, so absolute big fan of that situation. There will be some growing pains changing over from a first-round quarterback, and losing him. And Jordan Watkins, too. Let's not forget about Jordan Watkins, who was like a 6th-round pick of the San Francisco 49ers. So they had 2 NFL wideouts there. Let's keep in mind, not just Trey Harris. So there'll be changeover, but that just means there's opportunity. Oh, yeah. And there was Antwain Wells there, too, who stinks. And has horrible hands, but the guy was out there and he had major buzz until you realize that, he literally cannot track a ball downfield. He doesn't have the ability to do it.
No, you got to get it to
him. Like Mr. Magoo.
Yeah.
Mr. Magoo chasing the ball downfield. Where is it?
Yeah.
He had a couple of absolutely massive drops that if he makes on deep balls, it could have put Ole Miss in the it would have put Ole Miss in the some unbelievably timed drops.
And he didn't play many games, so the games he was in, they wanted him to be in.
Oh, man, he made him count those drops. Oh, it was painful.
I'm going to give you a trio of wide receivers, kind of all different question marks here.
Yeah.
Give me the guy you're taking the most out of it, and I'll tell you where I'm going with this. We mentioned Jakobi Lane. Okay, I'm going to put him in this box.
Oh, my heart flutters for Jakobi Lane.
I'm going to put Deion Burks in this box. Got the health concern. I put Lane in the question mark is he touchdown dependent? Right? Because if you take the touchdowns away, 519 yards doesn't make me jump out of my seat.
No. Yeah, well, I mean, they did have the 4-man wide receiver group, and like you said, you have Deuce Robinson and those guys going. I will say that. But you want him to be able to show route manipulation tendencies, the ability to set up his defender with multiple moves, combination routes, other than just being a legitimately awe-inspiring jump ball guy in the corner. Every time I'm at a USC guy, I went to 6 last year. When they were down inside the 20, I went to whichever corner he was lining up at. I'm going to that corner, and guess what happened? A lot of good footage came of me and Jakobi Lane. Jakobi Lane knows me. Like, we hung out after the last game of the season. I told him, like, oh, can we get him? He's like, oh, yeah, I know you. Hell yeah, we can. Because he sees me in the end zone filming him and dapping him up after he goes and scores. Like, I'm slapping 5. I'm the cameraman who maybe is not kind of
the cameraman without the cameraman.
Might be a little bit over my skis in terms of what I'm doing out there and the excitement I'm showing. Like, some of those highlights, you're really seeing me over there geeking out, like, oh, giving him the hype. Like, I got a couple these, right there after he gets done, and he's flexing right in front of me. I'm the only one who's running over there and doing it because I'm a psycho, and I don't care. You can't do anything to me. I'm old Froton, baby. I'm going to do it. So, yeah, I it's better to ask permission than forgiveness. And ain't nobody said nothing to me. So
there you go.
I love Jakobi Lane.
I like his game too, but I just want to say,
but you're right. You want to see him beat some guys deep and really take the top off, as opposed to being kind of a jump ball, winning at the top of the catch point, top of the route stem, where his physicality, ultra physical there.
Love it.
He's so hard.
I don't want a Keon Coleman. I don't need a Keon Coleman, right?
No, you don't need a Keon Coleman, do you? Yeah, I get it.
With Deion Burks, we saw him be explosive the year before, be that dude. Then you have the health concerns. You missed the whole season, right? So, and then Caleb Douglas out of Texas State.
Oh,
you like a little monkey wrench I'm throwing in. Out of this group in fantasy, which guy do you think has less question marks?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, it's fair. It's totally fair with Jakobi. I totally understand what you're saying in terms of that profile. I would say, if I'm talking about just a totally dependent, if I'm low high floor, dependable, projectable. I think probably Caleb Douglas.
Thank you. I feel his trajectory has steadily gone up. Last year, he took a huge step in a room where Barrymore wasn't 100% healthy. My man almost got 1,000 yards at 8-something, right? 770 and 6 touchdowns. Hey, I think you look at a 1,000-yard receiver and double-digit touchdowns out of Caleb Douglas this year, especially if Morton's fully healthy. They loaded up in that system, $26 million in transfer portal and recruiting. I think Caleb Douglas is a guy that people aren't talking about enough that could put himself up there in that top 25 wide receiver group.
Yeah, he's right on the outside of that right now. He's probably close to that 30 mark. I definitely have him ahead of Marsh, and he was in that range. He's comfortably there. And the thing about Douglas is that the certainty in that offense, where the number 2 is Koyikin. Koyikin's 165 pounds. He's a straight slot. So that's that role and that usage is unto itself. It's not a threat to what he'll be doing on the outside at all whatsoever. And you got to remember with Texas Tech last year, you think about them. You think about the fact that their head coach is Joey McGuire, who's a clear defense-first head coach. From an offensive perspective, you saw Taj Brooks over the last 2 years get like 600 carries or something. He was absolutely rode hard and put away wet. So like the run game was more of a part of the offense that you expect from a Zach Kitley offense. He's now moved on over to Florida Atlantic. But this is a team that quietly, I feel like, you didn't look at them as being like the Cliff Kingsbury offense. Quietly was a 38-point-per-game offense this year. 38 points per game, baby. That's a big pie, and I want a slice.
Yes.
Caleb Douglas, he's earned
some of that.
his price.
Yes.
You got to understand, there was no pecking order established whatsoever on that outside at all at Texas Tech heading into last season. We know what we were getting, right? Caleb Douglas is the one that emerged out of that pack. Everybody had a shot. Plenty of talented dudes. Micah Hudson was in there. You didn't see the field. It was Caleb Douglas who went and took advantage of that opportunity with Eakin seizing the slot role. But those are the two guys, and there's going to be no slowing down for them now that they have all the money. Guess what Joey McGuire knows? They need to win, baby.
Yes.
They need to win this year.
Yes.
Or there's going to be some questions that need to be answered. He's going to be extremely motivated to gas it up and put those new shiny toys and those new purchases on the behalf of that NIL department. They're going to want to put them out there and get them action. I think he's just such a safe option right now for Texas Tech, for Caleb Williams from a college fantasy perspective.
I can see him playing on Sundays as well. I think that his game translates to the next level. I'm not saying that he's going to be a top 90 pick, but I do see him being drafted into the NFL and playing on Sundays. And Micah Hudson's back, but I don't think that hurts him. I think if anything that helps him, because now they're going to have to draw coverage to the other side, and there won't be as many double teams for Caleb Douglas as he was seeing last year. And if Morton is fully healthy, I just think up. Caleb.
Dude, who cares if Morton's healthy? Doesn't even matter. You know who's behind him, right? My boy, my beloved Will Hammond.
That's it, Hammond. Yes,
Will Hammond,
gunslinger, baby. The gunslinger.
Anybody who would listen to me anytime I got on the air, I talked about Will Hammond last year as a true freshman. Met him at the Elite 11. Came in there as a 3-star. His arm proved to be bigger than anybody thought. Make his progressions. You can see he's comfortable. He's got a good, solid, like his feet. Footwork's better than you expected. Very schooled. And the thing that I love as much as anything, I love the talent. I love arm talent. I love athleticism. When it comes to QBs, brains.
Smart.
I like it. Up here. Engineering student. Got a chance to talk to him extensively about kind of why he chose Texas Tech, the installs, the systems. And he loved sitting there and getting to diagnose plays and run them out and do installs with Zach Kitley. He's like, it fed that creative and analytical side of his brain because he is such a cerebral kid. He's a straight 4.0 kid. And everything I'm hearing, I was just in Austin for the Tadpole Bowl, as you know, and I was talking to some people. Let's just say, talk to somebody who has very close ties with the Texas Tech organization. Joey McGuire talks about Will Hammond
like he's his kid,
like he's the second coming of Graham Harrell. If we're talking Texas Tech, right? He is the heir apparent. He's next, obviously. He's the next Pat Mahomes of Texas Tech land.
Yeah.
But he gushes about him. Like he could have transferred because Baron Morton's still there. He could have transferred and followed somewhere else. Definitely Will Hammond could. He wanted to stick it out because he wants a shot. Plus, Baron Morton shoulder surgery coming off of. We hear good things, but I'm telling you, that leash is very, very short for Mr. Morton. He's been great. He's held it for 2 years, but man, if there's some slippage in that production,
he forced Chuck out. He forced Chuck out. So
he beat Chuck. Chuck was injured.
I know, but Morton's injured and he hasn't been able to get.
He's injured now too.
Yeah.
Yep, but I think I'm not. Even if he doesn't, fine. Will Hammond step right up. He's just as good.
The way you talk about Will Hammond and the way you're sold on Will Hammond is how I am on Hayes Hanji. I think that
Haney,
yeah, he's going to be the Oklahoma State revival. He's the guy. I think
he's got to deal with Rico Suave Flores though.
Zane Flores.
Zane. Rico Flores is the other guy. Zane. That's right. Billy Zane Flores. We'll see.
I got another wide receiver
We'll
before we hit the tight end department. I think opportunity kind of helped him now with Evan Stewart out for the season. I don't think people understand the build and the talent that Dakorien Moore possesses as a true freshman. I put him in the same box as Dallas Wilson, the Jeremiah Smiths, those Cam Coleman type wide receivers, big body guys. You're not out jumping them. You're not going to be out physical. He plays the boundary very, very well. Can play inside if he needs to, but mostly an outside dominant wide receiver. Can Dakorien Moore be that dude for Oregon, and where do you got him ranked this year?
I feel like Dakorien Moore, when I watch him, it's the complete profile. It's that his breakdowns and his ability to sink his hips and just create space off of his breaks are extremely sudden, extremely fast and twitchy. It's hard to get a beat on him. And if you're going to try to, break on first move, you're going to open yourself up over the top, if you're going to try to play ultra aggressive on him, because he's got the speed too.
Yep. And he's
but it isn't just, that's the thing. Great. Plenty of guys have speed. It's not just the speed. It's the ramp down. It's how you channel your hips, how you extend and explode out of breaks to make sure that those cornerbacks aren't going to be able to make a play on the ball on you. I just think his twitch and how smooth and comfortable he is when he's receiving the ball, and how it's all in one motion, how he's receiving it and he's tucking it and he's going into his move, and just a
no
good
gear
feel.
down.
No, he's like spatial awareness.
Direction, it's all pop, pop, pop.
It's a lot. He's just very, very crisp on his stuff. And that's sort of a skill set you'd love to see. It's a wide open room with Evan Stewart out, and while I think Justice Lowe will probably be a pretty responsible and dependable secondary option out of the slot, much like a toned down Tez Johnson,
right?
But dependable, like you can depend on Justice Lowe. He's not explosive, and you're going to need some explosives from Oregon, where they're doing a little bit of changeover on the offensive side, from last year, and defensively too. Losing Caldwell, losing Jordan Birch on the other side. A couple of their key.
You got Matayer still on the end. So
still got Matayer, Uiagalelei.
Yep.
Big Dave will still be patrolling the sidelines.
Big Dave, winners, bro. I love Dave. He's awesome. Dave's a good Dave. For as Dave is in college football. Anytime I hit Dave up, he always has, time for me, or always talk shop, whether it's, kids in high school, kids in the pros, doesn't matter. Dave's good stuff.
Big Dave. Yeah, dude, he's a legit presence, and I'm happy that Big Dave will get potential first-round pick out of Matayer.
Yes.
He's got – you talk about Uiagalelei. No, it's not DJ.
No.
It's Matayer. Yeah. Okay? He is the pro prospect. He is the
Top
Prince
30.
who's promised. And he has that outside easy call round two. Maybe he slips in around one. He's got that sort of upside.
I think he's better than Birch, to be totally honest with you.
I think that's probably fair. Yeah,
So-
Birch he's such a full-sized defensive end. It's like he's almost a breed 3-tech, you know?
Yeah,
He's one of those tweener types.
But,
Like a Boogie Basham, like is almost coming. I think when I was evaluating him, just like, oh,
would you
he's
put
so
Dakorien Moore in
big.
top 30?
Yeah, he is in the top 30. I believe I have him at Dakorien Moore 27. And you know what? I might even be a little modest on him too. I might even like that's why I've been seen it now. I might even like him a little more.
All right, let's get at this tight ends real quick. We're already an hour and something into it. I gotta wrap this up. I gotta get my ass up at freaking 4:30 in the morning. So,
Hustle.
I'm going to throw out some names outside of these big game guys that we're talking about. I'm going to talk about a guy that I know you love that's got a lot of voided targets, yards, usage, whatever the Nittany Lions did with, homeboy that's now in the NFL. I remember, Froton, we were talking about Elite 11s. Now, if you don't know about Elite 11s, we're real quick. It's all about quarterbacks, okay? But these quarterbacks are throwing to people who are catching the ball. And they are all of high caliber talent that are there playing. And I remember, I think it was 2 years ago or last year, you said to me, Luke Reynolds was the best receiver of the football at the Elite 11s out of everybody there. And from that moment on, my friend,
Wasn't particularly close. Close.
I was locked in on this gentleman, and I think that he is going to fill in nice and easily for the gentleman that was at Penn State. Was it Tyson? What's the guy who just went on to the NFL?
Tyler
Warren. I think he's going to fill in that role.
And then Theo Johnson before him.
Right.
And then Fryermuth before that.
Right, yeah.
And then Brenton Strange, he was actually before that.
In between Fryermuth and yeah. They've been putting him out.
Who's next? Yeah, whoever you want.
Luke Reynolds is next. That's who's next.
Luke Reynolds is next. He is next. You know where Luke Reynolds is from, my man?
Talk to me, please.
Massachusetts. Lawrence Academy. He was a quarterback as a junior, but he was such a freak that he went down to Connecticut and
Academy.
prep. Yeah, he went down to Connecticut and did the preps. Went to do the prep circuit because that's where you. So you guys know,
Reno, baby.
If you're in the Northeast, Dante Reno. If you're in the Purdue represent. If you're in the Northeast and you have like real potential as a prospect. You go to Connecticut and you hit the prep scene. You go to Avon Old Farms, you go to Deer, like you said, that's the circuit that you go. That's your path, or you pretty much you're not going to be getting your 4th star. You're not going to be looked at in the same way. Reynolds went and did that, bet on himself. Left Lawrence Academy, went down there, and oh my gosh, did it work out in spades for him. I actually had some correspondence with his dad too. He's a really nice guy. And was going to try to go and work out with Reynolds. He works out in the offseason in my hometown, in Wilmington, Massachusetts, with Fryermuth. Nice. So I actually wanted to go and work out with those guys. I was unable to get back and do it, but I might go and try to do it this summer if that's something that's possible. That being said, I love Luke Reynolds. Mm-hmm. From a overall Devy's perspective, he's an elite top 10 apex tight end. Likely top 5, has like after Lincoln Cure, the athleticism is just at the absolute apex of the position. Lincoln Cure, incoming freshman wide receiver, actually tight end, 230 pounds for Kansas State this year, is arguably the greatest athletic tight end of the last decade.
Yeah.
And a white boy like him and Reynolds, both super freaky athletic tight end white boys, big boys. Who have that basketball profile that translates just so well, that amazing ability to just pluck that ball out of the air. And he at 230 pounds, set state records for Kansas in the 100 and 200 meters. State records at 230. Okay, so he is like, in terms of like freakiness, he is like the absolute apex. Luke Reynolds is, is just like a little step down. As projectable as it gets, Devy, just an easy call if you're looking for a projectable, bankable tight end. If you're looking, okay, I got Evan Ingram, I got 2 seasons, I got George Kittle, I got a couple years. If you need that, if you're looking for a succession plan, Luke Reynolds should be a priority for you, Devy.
All right. I'm going to talk about a guy staying local. This is a kid, 4-star, was recruited to Alabama, right? Didn't spend much time there, but now he's up in Chestnut Hill at BC. Ty Lockwood. Listen, BC's produced for the past 3 or 4 years tight ends that have put over 400 yards each, combined for almost 10 touchdowns between the two of them. I think it's, from what I'm hearing, he is tight end 1 from BC right off the rip in his first year there. He has the connection with Dylan Longaro, who could be quite QB1 for BC over Grayson James. That's kind of a fight right now going into the
Lonergan, Dylan Lonergan transferring in. Why not?
Alabama.
Bill O'Brien, keep in mind, recruited him in Alabama.
Right.
When he was there. He was one of those guys. He was one of his contact points. So,
what are your thoughts on Ty Lockwood?
Oh,
as a late round guy?
First off, the profile is all there. Anytime you're going to get one of those transfers down from any of those elite schools, you want to be involved. The recent example of that, Joe Royer over there at Cincinnati. Was at Ohio State, wasn't getting the kind of run he wants. Like, I know if I go over there to Cincinnati, I'm going to get that starting gig. He does, and he just is a top 5 CFF tight end. Just goes over and absolutely explodes just because he was blocked at Ohio State. Just because you're at Alabama doesn't mean you don't have the ability to play. And at BC, we know, speaking of rich traditions of tight ends, obviously you're looking at Penn State and Iowa, but gosh, on a slightly lower level, you're still – BC used to put tight ends in the league on the regular in those 5th, 6th, 7th rounds. Left and right. Like, they had a rich tradition of really good tight ends, which kind of came to a run last year. Kamari Morales just didn't have the same kind of impact come over from North Carolina we were really hoping for. But
6 touchdowns, but he couldn't kind of get over that hump.
Yeah, sure. And in his defense, Castellanos was just not a fit for that system at all. He wanted, Big B.O.B. wants
Well, it was Grayson James last year. Castellanos got benched after like.
That's what I mean. But he still played like 7 games.
Yeah.
So like you have to deal with that, and it's just he isn't a distributor of football. He is a Nick Marshall type, and that's why he's at UCF. He's going to be running around. But Lonergan has to be considered an absolute threat to that 100%. He comes over with Lockwood. Those guys already have continuity. That'd be the best thing that Lockwood could have is come over with a guy he's already been working with, has a relationship with. I assume they're probably pretty good buddies. If they came over together, they must at least kind of like each other. Safety
blanket in the red zone.
All of it, and just we've seen the willingness of that, the pro style that Bill O'Brien runs. He likes to have his tight ends out there. He ain't afraid to run 12 personnel. He's Bill O'Brien.
Right.
So he will be on the field often. Like you're saying, he's clearly the one there. Great late round shot for CFF purposes. For Devy, probably a hold at this point because you have so few spots. But C2C down the board, if you're looking for a tight end with a little bit of upside and you need, you got one, you need somebody that's dependable. Worse offense than Ty Lockwood in the 45 roster spot.
I mean, then big names, Sadiq, Endries, Velling, Jolly, those are, Reynolds, those are your big names. 2 athletic freaks. One's kind of coming off a serious injury. One kind of has the opportunity to fill in for, a guy who did it for LSU for 2 seasons. Trey'Dez Green, athletic freak. And R.J. Maryland out of SMU, another athletic freak, coming off that knee injury, but it seems as though he's doing well and on schedule to be there for a season opener. Which guy do you like more here? I know R.J. Maryland's shown us a little bit more, but Trey'Dez Green was behind, what's his name? Who's the tight end that just got drafted from LSU? I'm drawing a blank right now.
Oh, Mason Taylor.
Yeah, Mason Taylor. Yeah, so he wasn't beating out Mason Taylor, regardless of him being 6'6". And be an athletic freak. But out of those 2 guys, athleticism is through the roof for both of them. Who would you rather have?
From a college fantasy perspective, Trey'Dez Green is being drafted ahead of Russell Maryland because of his tantalizing physical profile. That being said, they bring in Bauer Sharp from Oklahoma, who was their starting tight end at Oklahoma, and pretty much the only guy they could depend on in that entire wide receiver.
But he disappeared after week 5. He had 2 big games earlier in the season, and I know they just were running the ball, and obviously defense were taking him out of the play because they had no wide receivers. But he did kind of disappear a little bit.
Sure, but why would they bring him in then? You know, it's like that kind of it gives me a little bit of pause. If Trey'Dez Green is the guy,
right?
Why would they go and court him? Just, I don't know, maybe embarrassment of riches. But if I'm Bauer Sharp and I'd want to play, I provide he's healthy from a college fantasy perspective.
Maryland.
I've been taking a lot of Maryland's because it's scared off by the fact that he had the knee injury last year. But all the reports were really good out of it.
Oh, he's doing
especially in a best ball format. You can kind of take Hibner in the back, who came in and just picked up right where he left off. Not quite as good as Maryland, but the usage is there. And SMU loves their tight ends. Rhett Lashley loves his tight ends. So RJ Maryland was awesome before he got hurt. He wasn't just good. He was like
phenomenal. Like
top
explosive,
5 tight end. Good.
Downfield threat, like making one-handed catches. Like he was giving you that baby Harold Fanning type vibe to him.
There's a lot to like about that. And for the cost of acquisition, you're going to have to get Trey'Dez Green. Tadpole formats, round 8, 9, 10. You can wait on Russell Maryland till the late teens. You know, you can wait on. Nobody's prioritizing him the way they really should be. I've been able to get him in a lot of from best ball leagues and profit from it. Hopefully, I feel like he's undervalued, and for cost of acquisition, it's pretty clear. RJ Maryland for me. I have way more of him than I do Trey'Dez.
All right, I got one last trio of tight ends, and then we're gonna wrap this show up real quick. We talked about Lockwood going out of Houston. I like the kid's profile, but I don't know if the usage will be there. I'm going to throw Tanner Koziel in there, right, as a tight end. That's a good upside. I'm going to throw in Arizona State's newest tight end, Chamon Matayer, who has a crazy profile, but we really haven't seen the production. And then I'm going to throw in a guy that, you know, had that Nicholas Harbor tight end vibe when he was coming out of high school. Never really hit the plateau, but he's in that Dave Arnott scheme. Go sick him, Michael Trigg. Out of those 3 tight ends, all have crazy athletic profiles. Which one would you be taking, and which guy seems to be attacked more in the Tadpole League? Is it Koziel, Matayer, or Michael Trigg?
Koziel is being taken more often because you got to remember these drafters are kind of going in there and taking a look and not understanding proper context of the fact like he did that in the MAC.
Right.
He had 800 yards and I would say touchdowns. I mean, that's a bomb.
Right.
But now he's in Houston and he's playing for our old friend, of course, Willie Fritz, formerly of Tulane, renowned for being one of the slowest paced offenses in the country every year. Like he plays nice, slow. Plays a slow pace. And last year, they brought in Malik Carr from Michigan State, who also has a pretty awesome athletic profile. I was really excited. Like, kind of a freakish ability to break tackles. Malik Carr is supernatural. So hoping for him, he wasn't able to really make much of an impact. Even it was year 1, and Donovan Smith was just a catastrophe. And he had to start Zion Chris a few games. But the way the system is run fairly slow. They'll be better this year. I like Wegman. You know, he definitely has potential, but he has been extremely brittle.
Yeah.
If he goes down, then you're dealing with a complete who knows we're going to get DEFCON 5 situation.
Donovan Smith still there?
I don't care. I hate Donovan Smith.
I know.
Oh my God, get him away from me. But that kind of clouds his profile a little bit in the speed. And I know Houston will be better because it was year 1, like you said, out of Fritz. But I don't know how much, right? So if I'm going with the guys we're talking about, I like Trigg if I'm going to go with that at cost. Because Koziel is going the highest. Matayer and Trigg are pretty close. Matayer is more of an inline type guy. He doesn't flex out very often. Right. So he's getting those opportunistic shots, and he'll get the touchdowns. He had, I think, 5 last year, but he doesn't get volume in terms of targets. It's not what they do over there in Dillingham's system. So I'm just a little nervous about tying too much of my wagon up to him, even though, like, from a best ball perspective, hey, he's fine as like a TE3 type as your last one, because he's going to catch a touchdown
Right.
You know, on probably 5, maybe 6 touchdowns, but it's going to be with 20 yards. You know, it's not going to be with the
5
PPR
receptions for
benefits.
65 and a touchdown.
So I would actually probably say Trig, because I really like what we're going to see out of that Baylor offense. Sawyer Robertson took over a few games in the season from Daquan Finn. So he even had, he had 10 under his belt, but he even missed the first 3 games. So that took a little time for him to get continuity. Now there's plenty of continuity. You know what we're getting. And I think that Trig, after having put up pretty solid numbers last year, obviously not Koziel. Koziel doubled them.
Right.
But with the switch in situations, with the cost of acquisition being so much less for Trig, 5, 6, 7 rounds later, I feel like the potency of that offense, which is going to be real good. Jake Spavital, give credit where it's due. Jake Spavital came over, and the offensive coordinator took over for Jeff Grimes and completely revamped that whole thing. They got better as the season went on. They're going to score 35 points a game. Sawyer Robertson at the helm. I think that's a good recipe for success for Trig at a very, very reasonable, like round 20 acquisition cost.
Love it. As I think about it again, another dart throw, and then we'll wrap it up. Mizzou tight end. I had him in that
Norfleet.
Yes, I had him in that Velling and Endries kind of box, but he hasn't taken that step. His freshman year, he flashed a little bit. Last year, they didn't really show too much. I know he's got an injury he's kind of getting over, but what are your thoughts on Brett Norfleet?
Yeah, sure. Well, keep in mind, you want to talk about injuries. There's no shortage of injuries on that offense of Missouri. Yeah. You know, we saw Connor Cook. I mean, that guy was a walking match unit. Respect to him, because he was one of the toughest QBs. Yeah. One of the absolute toughest QBs that we saw in college football over the past couple of years. So props to Mr. Cook. But, you know, with Norfleet, what do we get out of Pribula?
Right.
Is it going to be Sam Horn, former Red Sox, great Sam Horn, as you know? Maybe his kid. It's Sam Horn's kid. Okay,
right.
You guys who aren't from Boston, nobody knows who Sam Horn is except for we do. A brief, fleeting, shining star moment of potential for our beloved Boston Red Sox. But the QB there, Sam Horn, he's kind of battling Pribula. We don't know what we got. We went from a steady 3-year starting vet who was gutting it out every time to just complete an unknown commodity. And Pribula was known more for his running ability than it really was at Penn State. He was the goal line wildcat QB. He really wasn't throwing much. So, like, I don't know what we're getting out of that passing attack. We got Kevin Coleman coming in to take over for Burden. I'm excited about Marquise Johnson on the outside. The last 2 games of the season, dude, with Weiss, he was in the bowl. He was the Theo Weiss. So there's some talent there to take away targets as well, which is what they did last year. Scheme-wise, it could have.
But there is no burden.
No burden. But there's Kevin Coleman coming over from Mississippi State, and Marquise Johnson was really good, in my opinion. So I do think that there's potential. And you got Ahmad Hardy. And they had no running backs last year. They were dead. Nate Noel, DOA.
Yeah.
They had nothing. No. They had nothing. Now you got Ahmad Hardy coming in. Destroyed the Sun Belt.
ULM.
True freshman. Oh, dude. That guy runs hard. So they could go back to that same style they had a couple years ago with Schrader, where they were a pound the ball team. Pounded it with Schrader. And if you got Pribula, maybe that's what they do. Maybe sell out of RPOs. Drinkwitz is a crafty fella.
All right. That's the Tadpole, edition of Devy Degens. That's my guy, Eric Froton. I'm Nino Brown. We're filling in for SC and his co-host. Come back next week. You'll see the same faces. Once again, we appreciate you all. Devy Degens, we out.